It's already started, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rajvi sir, are you there? Rajvi sir? Dr. Rajvi Singh, are you there, sir? Rajvi sir, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, no, not Raghuvi sir, not, I am asking about you. I am asking about Dr. Rajvi Singh.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Rajvi sir, yes. Yes, Rajvi sir is there. So, good evening, everybody. I am Orinda Chakraborty, Associate Professor of Economics in the Department of Commerce, Sudhir Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, West Bengal, India. This is the second day of our two-day international webinar on SAARC countries and COVID-19, organized by the Departments of Commerce and Economics, Sudhir Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, West Bengal, India, in collaboration with the Department of Economics, Kishan Postgraduate College, Bahraich, UP. Hearty welcome to all of the participants in today's webinar. Today, we will begin with an introductory note about the webinar to be delivered by Dr. Rajveer Singh, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Economics, Kishan Postgraduate College, Bahraich, Uttar Pradesh, India. I would request Dr. Rajveer Singh to deliver his speech. Please, sir. Rajveer sir, please unmute your audio and start your deliberation. Rajveer sir, please start your talk.
Share is muted.
Rajveer sir, please turn on your audio and video and please start your speech. Rajveer sir, Dr. Rajveer Singh, please turn on your audio and video and start your speech, sir. Rajveer sir, please unmute your audio. Yes, yes, sir. Yes. Please unmute your audio and video. Turn on your video, sir. So I request Dr. Rajbir Singh to deliver his speech. Rajbir sir, please start your speech, sir.
Sir, please remove your headphone. Anwar sir, headphone remove করে বলতে বলুন, sound আসবে।
Rajbir sir, please remove your headphone and try to. No, sir, you are not audible, sir. Rajbir sir, you are not audible. Rajbir sir, you are not audible. Rajbir sir, you are not audible, sir. Rajbir sir, you are not audible. No, sir. Rajbir sir, you are not audible. Rajbir sir, it is better to remove your headphone.
You are audible, sir? आवाज आ रही है सर मेरी?
Yes, yes. You are audible now, sir. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. We start.
Yes, you please start your speech.
Okay, sir. Good evening to everybody of organizing international webinar committee. Respected to Professor S.P. Singh, Sir, Secretary of my Kisan Postgraduate College, Bahraich, UP, India. Respected to Dr. Vinay Saxena, Principal of my college and my colleague. Good evening to Professor Orinda Chakraborty, convener of this international webinar, Sudhi Ranjan Lahiri, Mahavidyalaya, Nadia, West Bengal, India. Respected Sir Sunil Kumar Biswas, President, Governing Body, SRLM. Respected to Dr. Somnath Bandyopadhyay, Teacher in Charge, SRLM. Respected other organizing body of international webinar. In today international webinar on SAARC country and COVID-19. Second day is first speaker Professor Utpal Kumar De, Department of Economics, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, India. Your topic is COVID-19 and the issue of unemployment in Indian respective. Second speaker, Professor Muhammad Anwar Hussein, Department of Social Work, Jagannath University, Dhaka, Bangladesh. Your topic is Psychosocial impact of COVID-19 in respect of SAARC country, with special reference to Bangladesh. Sir, third speaker, Dr. Raghuveer Bishtu, Associate Professor, Department of Economics, Tribhuvan University, Nepal. Your topic is COVID-19 and economic cost of Nepal, observation, lessons and options. The South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation is a major regional intergovernmental organization in South Asia. Its members 8 states are Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. The SAARC comprises 3% of the world's area, 21% of the world's population, and 4.2% of the global economy as of 2019. As per the World Bank, South Asia faces its worst economic performance in 40 years due to coronavirus pandemic. To tackle the situation of SAARC countries have rolled out a various stimulus package to boost investment, private business and economic growth in response to the COVID-19 pandemic that disrupted economic activity in a region inhabited by over 1.8 billion people. In respect of unemployment during COVID-19, I talked to research scholars in vocational psychology who have sought to develop a research agenda in response to the massive SAARC countries unemployment crisis that has been evoked by the COVID-19 pandemic. The research agenda includes exploring how this unemployment crisis may differ from previous unemployment periods, examining the nature of the grief evoked by the
Rajvi sir, please unmute your audio. Rajvi sir, please unmute your audio.
अब बोले बोले हाँ आ रहे
Yes, sir.
disproportionate impact of the crisis on poor and working class communities, developing a framework for evidence-based intervention for unemployed individual and examining the work-family interface and unemployment among youth. As Indian cities get ready to reopen the economy to secure jobs and livelihoods and end the human misery that the pandemic has occasioned, public transport and safe access have become an urgent necessity. The surreal image of empty roads, crisp, clean air, and blue skies during the lockdown that caught public imagination are also the evidence of disruption at a scale never witnessed or experienced before. The Central Pollution Control Board has estimated that during the lockdown, contribution of vehicle to the overall decline in particulate pollution in cities like Delhi has been profound. Hourly analysis of PM 2.5 data on a typical week. They show flattering of the peak hour pollution. This transitory reprieve from pollution and congestion is not expected to last. But everyone is asking what might it take to sustain these gains? Are we fitted to go back to the regular toxic gridlock? Now, Professor Arindam Chakraborty to continue the webinar. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful presentation. With this introductory note, today's the inaugural session ends here. Now, technical session will start. Today, the technical session will be moderated by Hirak Roy, Associate Professor, Department of Commerce, Sudhir Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, West Bengal, India. Now, I hand over the session to Hirak, sir.
Thank you, Orindam. Welcome, everybody. Today is the second day of our webinar. Yesterday, the session was very good, and those who have participated, they have really enjoyed. I hope today our three distinguished speakers will give us a new dimension in this webinar. And today we are going to start with three distinguished professors. They are already present. Professor Rajbir Singh has also given introduction about them. So I have nothing to say about them. Professor Arindam Chakraborty will say little bit introduction about the speakers. But before handing over to Professor Chakraborty, I would like to say that during COVID-19, as an academic person, what we have found that our students people have increased some mental problem. That is, they are missing from schools, college, and university. They are sitting idle in home. Although online education system is there, but everybody is not taking it properly. A large section of the people are missing from online activity. And when people are at risk at home also, because sometimes we found that staying at home is very much monotonous, and physical activities are not there. So it creates problem for all of us. And at the same time, we have seen economic insecurity among the people. So all these problems are there. We have to win over these problems, and different countries are facing this problem in different dimensions. So government of every country is trying to solve it in their own way, and people are gearing up. I hope in near future all will be normal and vaccine will come. Now I will hand over the mic to Professor Arindam Chakraborty to give little bit introduction about Professor Utpal Kumar De. Then after Professor De will say, and after the completion of Professor De, if any question is there, all of you are requested to put the question in YouTube or in chat box. Over to Professor Arindam Chakraborty to give little bit introduction about our first speaker, Dr. Utpal Kumar De. Thank you, Professor Chakraborty.
Professor Utpal Kumar De is associated with the Department of Economics, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, Meghalaya, India. He did his MSc, MPhil and PhD in economics from the University of Bardwan. Professor De has 26 years of postgraduate level teaching and 25 years of research experience. So far, he has guided 13 PhD scholars, and presently 6 scholars are registered and working under his supervision for PhD. He has undertaken 6 projects out of the fund sanctioned by UGC and ISI Kolkata. Professor De has authored, co-authored and co-edited a number of 13 books, and 118 of his research papers have been published in a national and international journals and edited volumes. He is a reviewer of economic analysis and policy, Global Ecology and Conservation, Applied Economics, International Journal of Statistical Sciences, Archives of Agronomy and Soil Science, Applied Economic Letters, Journal of Climatology and Weather Forecasting, International Journal of Environment and Sustainable Development, Journal of Development and Agricultural Economics, African Journal of Agricultural Economics, so on and so forth. Today, he will be speaking on COVID-19 and the issue of unemployment, the Indian perspective. I hand over the session to Professor Utpal Kumar De. Please, sir.
Can you listen?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible. Yes.
How much time, Orinda?
30 minutes for discussion and 10 minutes for interaction.
Fine. I may take less than that also, so no problem.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah. So let me share from here first. Oh. Can you see the screen?
No, sir.
Huh?
No, not
No, sir,
visible.
Are just now. Now it has come, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is coming.
So good. So good afternoon, good evening, everybody. So, and this is evening time here in Shillong. We are having cold now because after rain whole day. Anyway, so it is very good. Though I could not be present in yesterday's presentation. I think volume is okay, no? Or I have to be a little louder?
No, sir. It's perfectly okay, sir.
Okay. So COVID-19, as I was asked to present on some employment issues. The earlier also on some employment issues I had presented by another seminar that was organized by Professor Raghuvi Bista in Nepal, and some other aspects on the Indian economy and several others, some tourism aspects also. So here today only very sketch of these employment scenarios, that is we see I will come about, and what is the trend and other things. So just to give a brief background that as at the outset that we can say that the last almost 8 months what we see, 7 to 8 months, so how the transformation of a local issue became a global pandemic issue. And every country they did some miscalculations, and so policy formulations in that way, because it was really an unexpected situation and nobody thought that how long it will continue. So appropriately the measures are not taken. So the similar problem also India faced, and the governments, because of some pros and cons, they also committed in that way, that in the judgment, and so imposing lockdown or after ignoring and then hurriedly to impose all these things. Because the things that could be done rather is to stop the overseas movement or the incoming people, or to quarantine them in the early phase of February when the pandemic still not arrived in India. So, and that has caused a havoc toll on the employment scenario. It's affected. So it came through because first the international travelers in the big cities, and from especially from China or via media some other countries also. And then in the second phase from Europe also it arrived here. And from the metro cities, when the lockdown was imposed, because of the huge internal migration from the city areas to the village and the native areas of the people, because of their loss of the activities or the working or employment, whatever you say. So that caused again further percolation of this disease into the interior areas. And so, though I say that is a logistic function, and in my one earlier lecture, I had estimated that by mid of the September it will be around 1 lakh, and exactly on 16th September there was 98,000 maximum persons affected. So that peak has been reached, and now it started little receding. So if you go by the moving average, you can see, but still there is uncertainty because this process may continue, because you don't know whether there will be further resurgence in the second phase. Because if we present the data as of now till today, if we see here that you can see that daily active cases now started leveling up. So whatever new cases are coming, almost the new recoveries also every day are taking place. This right side, this pictures here you can see that the newly active cases coming every day was much higher than the newly recoveries, but there is a convergence. Convergence means the per day number of people being recovered from the disease is approaching towards per day new cases are coming, though there is still little gap, but moving average shows that is very close. Whereas if you see the South Asian countries here, Bangladesh, Nepal, even Sri Lanka's case, you will not see that much of surge in the effect every day. And one reason what I see persistently, that though they have not followed the strict lockdown procedure, the percentage of the testing is also not that significant. That may be one of the reason that it is not increasing at that faster rate. Even as of 1st October, you can see that it is not very significant in Bangladesh. Only whatever was in July, and it became almost double after 2 months, whereas we expect that it could have been much more. And here in the number of deaths also you can see in India, now the rate of death has declined. So it is now flattening the curve also. That we are seeing. Now the major failures, as I said earlier, that first not to control the international in-migration specifically and to quarantining the people.
Excuse me, sir. Your presentation is not visible, sir. Your presentation is not visible.
You cannot see this?
No, sir.
Screen is there, but you may restart it. I think it will come.
I have to stop sharing and then again resharing.
Yes, I think that you may try.
Now?
Not coming.
Coming?
No, sir. It is not showing.
Achha, I have stopped it. Let me first exit first. And now. Earlier it was coming, no?
Only the screen was there, but PPT is not coming.
Oh. Now?
No, sir.
Now? Now?
No.
Coming?
Yes, it is. Okay now.
Now it is not. So,
Yes.
so I should not go to the full screen. If I go to the full screen, sometimes it happens
Okay,
like
that will serve purpose for us.
So the second slide, the first slide I had given, this is the second slide that I showed here, that there is a little convergence between the daily new cases and the daily recovery rate in India now, and also the flattening of the daily death rates that is coming anyway. So this I had already mentioned that there was no control in the initial phase of the international movement, that the people who came from outside, and thereafter this hasty imposition of the lockdown that causes mass scale migration because of the unemployment scenario that happened. So always we assume that about the success of these procedures that we follow, whether it reduced the death rate or because of this so much of unemployment and malnutrition and other inequality, all these have a long-term impact, whether that will be much more than these whatever gain we achieved because of the imposition of the lockdown. Now, what are the impacts of the general level of employment we see? Almost every sector, there is no sector in India you can say that it is untouched by this this pandemic, current pandemic. So except the salaried or government sector, even salaried sector in the private multinational and others, so they also affected to some extent. Only the government sector workers are not affected much because they are getting their salaries, accepting some percentage cut of their salary in some cases. So as in the private sector case, there was an initial instruction that even though the industries are closed because of the lockdown, you cannot deduct the salary of the employees. But when it was found that increases the non-performing assets, their repayment capabilities of some industries, and they cannot survive. So that clause also withdrawn, and so many people are now they are under without pay. So on leave also for compulsory leave they are sent. And among these, what sufferer are the informal sector or the self-employed workers. Self-employed workers who do their own work and earn a daily livelihood, especially in the small business or the production activities. So they are the worst hit because there was no market in the beginning. So in some cases now unlocking is going on, but still it has not reached to the pre-lockdown or pre-COVID situation of the January or December phase, we can see from the CMI data or other sources of the data that has been made available now. And there is a lack of employment, earning that forced people to migrate. And once there is a migration that took place, now these people are now sandwiched between the two decisions of whether to go back to the metros where they used to work earlier, because the uncertainty is that whether they can get their place of stay back or not, because many of the people are still unwilling to allow them to stay in their rented accommodations. So that is also there, and at home in the villages also they are facing the problem of getting regular job. So they are we call it a catch-22 situations like that. So in the initial phase even we had seen that agriculture to be affected severely, because that time what many crops in their maturity stage, and there was a shortage of the labor and lockdown. Another problem they faced because of the lockdown, that is the marketing issues. So severely the value chain or the interlinkages of the market between industry agriculture, that was severely disturbed that time. And what was the ultimate result? Though people say that because of the less purchasing power, less demand in the market in general, there is a less inflation or inflation rate decline, but there is a huge increase in the food inflation, the data is revealing, and distortion of the regional prices, which is still now continuing. That time even there was almost 100% difference of the prices of almost all the food items we were observing, including the vegetables and the grocery items in India. So the problems are more or less similar, we can say, in all the South Asian countries. Only it will be relatively less in the smaller countries where transport is not a very big issue. So both the demand side, because of the earning declination of the earning of the people, so demand side is severely affected. So that was one thing. But some of the essential items still they have to buy. So for that reason, that food inflation we see, despite the fact that there is a general decline in the expenditure capability of the people. And survey shows that more than 30% decline in the expenditure pattern. And that decline in expenditure pattern has another dimension, that the poor people who has school-going children and college-going children, so for buying their electronic gadgets and the internet facilities, all these things, so a part of their budget has been curtailed and shifted towards that. So it has another composition of the expenditure change that you can say. From the supply side also, because of the stoppage of the production, so market shrinks. So both demand and supply. So overall, there is a downward spiral movement. So what is the ultimate result? You have seen that recent in all the newspaper came that in the first quarter, about 24% decline in the total GDP, contraction of the GDP. And so consequently, there will be an unemployment scenario. It is expected. You can estimate. Expenditure capability declined by earning some however, some big business houses, those who are dealing with the medical items or the electronic items, or that mobile phone, tab, computer, etc., those who are doing business, all this, their income increased severely. And the result, you can see that how Reliance's income has increased, though there is a general decline in the GDP. How it happened? That means that it affected adversely to the mass scale people, but the pandemic brought some fortune to a few big business houses. So it widened the income inequality scenario in India now. So inequality gap has become very big. So another thing is that the more hunger rate, as you have seen that time, especially in the April, May, and till June, that because of the migration, accidental death, other causes, or the income losses, because whatever meager income they had, they could have taken back to their native places, but they had to spoil that for the transportation issues. So supply of the temporary reliefs were attempted, but that is still not enough to revive the economy. Though in general, for the survival of some sections of the population, that free food grains given, monetary help, meager 1,000 or 2,000 rupees in their bank account, direct transfer, social welfare schemes that is adopted, that is purely an unsustainable approach for the generation of the employment and income, because it is an unsustainable approach. Also, there is huge uncertainty that we can say, because it is difficult still now to predict how long it will continue. Though we are expecting that by next 3 to 4 months, there will be a manageable situation that will be arrived, because the maximum vulnerable section of the population will already be affected, and those who will recover will recover. So, and those who will perish, they will perish. So ultimately, by a natural process, it will come to a halt, and maybe some of the recurring situations we can find as normal viral fever we see through the seasonal variations every year. So that type of things we can see. Now, overall unemployment scenario here, you can see that it was severely affected in the month of the April, May, and then started little reviving. And last 2 months figure just now available from CMI, and we do not see much of the improvement. Still, it will take a long way to go to bring back to the situations of the December 2019 that we can see, whether it is a labor participation rate, whether it's the employment rate, or the unemployment that increased very high, to come back to that stage that we can see. And now changes in employment and occupation, if we see by the groups, we can see the business houses started little recovering with the unlocking period started, and salaried employees, as I was telling earlier, that they are not affected in that way, but the farmers there has increased, and that still continued. Now, why the percentage of these farmers is a percentage distribution? Why that increased? That increased because of that the people who came back from the cities and joined their agricultural field along with the other family members. So what happened actually? The size of the landholding has not increased, Rather, a number of people engaged in agriculture from each family has increased in that way. So it is possibly that huge disguised unemployment has increased. And that is the scenario that we see, that we are going back, already we have gone back to the mid-60s situation. So when there was huge disguised unemployment and employment diversification was very less, because now diversity of the employment has come down, the scope of the diversity is less. So they are not getting some alternatives where to go. So more or less they are depending on either homemaker, so homemaker percentage also increase, and the farming sector. Small traders declined significantly, because who are involved in the small trading and labor activities, those who are self-employed, or they are the informal sector businesses. If you go by some caste distribution, you can see the upper classes people who are involved in the high collar jobs or the government sector jobs, they are not much affected. Rather the others, especially scheduled caste, tribes or other backwards, they were significantly affected as compared to the others. Another scenario, if you go by the religion, also the same way we can see that the Muslims and others, those who are mostly in informal sector, they are affected in a significant way as compared to the others. Now here another picture I tried to draw as per the educational status. You can see that illiterate or the low educated people, and naturally because of their employable capability or employability, so they are mostly involved in the informal sector or the self-occupied, or like daily vending work or other labor works. So they are most significantly affected. Rather, the graduates above or highly educated people, trained professionals, they can also work from home. So work at home is possible for them, but not for the physical laborers. So they are affected more as compared to the others. Now, if we look at specifically at the informal sector, so what we see that about 90% in India now is in informal sector. So most of them are affected. So naturally, and that slowdown, it had already started in 2016 after November's that demonetization process, and that continued after the GST implementations in an unplanned way. Another thing was there, and more unemployment is that government sector also has become squeezed because the government cannot spend much for the constructive activities at present for the shrinkage of the treasury. Why shrinkage of the treasury? No, because of the less GST collection. And you have seen in the newspaper a few days back also that even the deficiency of the GST distribution to the states, now government has raised its hands that it is incapable of paying them, and asked every state to take the loan and run their whereas 1 or 2 years back, when even previous year, when government per month more than 1 lakh crore used to get from the GST, so much above the expected rate, so that extra amount were not distributed to the states in that way. Or when there is a deficiency, government is a failure. Now so much loss in the GST earning that governments, all the projects that could create more employment, that has not been possible now. So what happened that the mitigation of this unemployment that is generated because of this lockdown or the COVID-19 situations, that has not happened, or rather government policy is now more falling on the privatization policy, and more private players will come in and they will take care of all these things. But still what we see that after March, that the maximum unemployment in India in the last 4.5 decades, which was about 8%, and now it has increased more than double. So number of unemployed people has gone up to from 32 million to 38 million, and that was the same quarter of the last year that we can see. In the last week of March last year, it was 23.8. So it almost double, you can say. So what temporary measures? Only those that is what we call social safety measures, that some free rations, etc., and some Manrega activities, its fare has been extended. That is some of the activities which were not under Manrega earlier now brought in that, and direct transfer of the money. But these are, as I already said in the beginning, that these are all unsustainable measures that we can say. And after the transport hurdle was another thing, and mass scale migration. So even if now some of the industries are allowed to open, because these people are still not sure whether to go back to their original workplace, so they are not running in full swing. So production still is in a questionable condition because of the risk of the return to the uncertain city life by then. So we are to the 3 or 4 decades back situations. Now, what will happen unless we can start the full-scale production activities? Now, a few of the informal examples here we have given, and that shows that these migrants people who used to earn some substantial amount of income in their activities in the metros, so after returning to their native places, so they are either not getting regular job and they are taking some vending or other activities where they are getting very meager amount of earning, which is not even sufficient for their sustainability. So for sustaining, what happens that children of some of the families are also joining their workforce, leaving their schools. So what happened apart from that digital divide that in the beginning inauguration he was mentioning, that some people do not have the digital facilities, all these things, but because of the less earning of the family, they are now joining to the informal activity works, whatever possible, or vending works, or the selling, daily whatever daily laborer work like that. But their future through the human resource generations that could be achieved by schooling or their education, that has come out because the rate of dropout has increased, and it will be very difficult to bring them back to the schools again. So another policy changes will be needed. So this employment scenario is highly connected with the trade, construction, and tourism activities. Now, present tourism scenario and the hospitality sector, more than 2 decades back, whatever situation was there in India, we have reached at that level. So now little tourism sector, some state governments have started off and on in the news we are getting, but still people are not coming out of home to visit those places. So it will take a long time to build the confidence not only in the market but also in the tourism sector, which was one of the fastest growing sector in the world in the generation of the employment income or creating people in the diverse job positions, from the transport to the hotels to the restaurants and the on-site facilities. So many of these things have been totally devastated, that you can see, along with the trade. Overall GDP position I have already told, so no need to mention here, that the people are expecting that after the 3rd quarter there may be a slight improvement in the GDP or some corrections, but that is still a remote possibility we see. Now, for this employment scenario that we have seen, to revive that, some of the fiscal measures, some monetary policy measures have been taken. But how long or how far it can be successful, some of the measures is that for small and medium scale industries, government announced among that 20 lakh crore that relief package or something, they wanted to give some soft loan, and also declared many of the defaulters to declare it as the non-performing asset. They delayed it and given some more time for those firms to recover with the situation so that it will not affect much of the employment scenario. But that situation has not given or yielded much good result as of now. Even if at the very low interest rate to these migrants people, if they want to start a business, but what type of business in their returning domestic or their native places they can start? Everybody cannot start a tea stall or anything, whatever they can, or any construction activity, whatever. So how many can they do? and what are the scopes. Without knowing what is the scope is available to them or the diversity available to them, just policy is announced. So it is a scope created. Some loopholes will be there because many of the people who has some good connections can take the loan and become a new defaulter group like that of earlier defaulter groups, and they run away from the country. So I apprehend that that type of scenario may arise again, that many new people will take loan and will be defaulted instead of getting or the genuine people who needs the loan on can do some of the activities. That is very difficult. That's why I call it a liquidity trap type of situations, that you reduce interest low, but effective demand in the market will not increase, neither investment facilities nor that employment scenario. So this policy is a doubtful policy, even relaxing time period, all these things. Rather, what I think that at this critical juncture, instead of going for more and more structural reform and more privatization, government should come forward on its own and through deficit financing or whatever in the construction or the infrastructure sector could invest more, which has more employment capability or employment multiplier effect. So at GST and others, because of the income situations I already told. So to compensate that, another policy was implemented, that was raise the excise duty of these petroleum products heavily. But that has another impact on the inflation that we can see. Now, how all these policies can help in making people Atmanirbhar or self-reliant. And there was one narrative came that many people, there is a conflict between USA, China, so many of the industries will switch over to India. So whatever conflict is there, one thing we have to remember, still for the industries, they are getting better positions in China. So they will not easily switch over huge amount of investment that they have already incurred there. Because still that is more profitable than the lackadaisical situations they face in India in order to open a new industries. So in the Northeast Indian situations also more or less similar, no need to explain. Now, what are the basic policy changes that we need? That whatever mistakes happen, whoever you ask, they say like that. Rather, the expansionary policies that is taken on the monetary policies from mostly fiscal management was very less, and the RBI's new interest rate and repo and reverse repo rate policies, whatever is given, that also reduced marginally to encourage the people. But still, all these things has not led any result. And another issue is that from the government side, how to make the proper policies for create employment and how many people became jobless. So how to create their job in accordance with their efficiency, training or capability to work, because there is a very less data available. So people do not know how many and which category of people they lost their job and what type of jobs can be made available to them. So that what policy is needed. So data management in India suddenly became a big issue, and it is an unexpected because it was never considered in the computation. Only whatever we see, that is from CMI's regular collection of the data and some government source, and they don't manage it properly. And now, because of that non-expansionary effect on the industries, now government is looking at the agriculture as the savior for the to bring out this economy from the clutch of this depression or recession, whatever you say, is a savior. So recently you have seen some more policy changes have been made and some new laws have been passed, along with another thing, that is the labor laws has been changed. That new labor laws, whatever has been made, rather there are some loopholes created for more exploitation of the laborer, what I see there. And in agricultural cases, that more deregulation about the market cases, how to sell, that has very less impact, especially in the eastern and southern Indian case. because in eastern region the farmers are very small. They own very small piece of land. The marginal small farmers are mostly maximum in number as compared to Punjab, Haryana, and other places where mandis work in an organized manner. So for their deregulations, they may be affected, and so we see so many unrest. But in the southern here, how many people, even if there is a government announced MSP, all other thing, how many farmers sell their product to this at this MSP or to those government procurement facilities? Rather, they go for the open market. So in this new law, nothing is new for this type of people. Rather, they may be adversely affected because of the forward marketing system that has been implemented and the contract system that will come in future. We see all these things may create another type of bondage. So that may adversely rather affect those farmers. So question on this loan proposed, another for farming sector, to encourage farming sector, announced that up to 2 crore people can take loan for building their agricultural infrastructure or acquiring technology. But how many small farmers can go for taking such 2 crore loan or 1 crore loan? That is a big questionable. Only policy will remain as a policy. So only some of the big business people, they will take the advantage of such policies rather. So government should come forward, rather invest in some projects for creating employment. And otherwise, we have to live with care and adapt to the new scenario. And as an individual, we have to think ourselves how to adapt and go forward. But whatever be the situations, our production and distribution activities still should remain smooth. And without that, everything will be in a standstill. So on that issue, we had written one article also. I have given some of the link here, you can see. So this is overall unemployment scenario policies undertaken, and still much hope we do not see, except a small piecemeal basis and temporary benefits that are being given. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir,
Okay.
for giving such a nice explanation about Indian economy and its unemployment problem. You have discussed in different aspects: government policy, migration, state policies, unemployment, and it is very much clear, I think, to the other country people, those who have joined in today's webinar, what is the actual position is going on in India. Although government is taking different measures, but there is some controversy. New laws are coming, but some states there is agitation, and some states they are just watching. I think what ultimately will save India, India's GDP will increase. All these are under question mark. We have to wait and watch. In the meantime, sir, some of our participants have raised some questions. I want to put those questions to you. The first question raised by Tithi Bose. She is asking, are we heading towards stagflation? Over to sir.
As of now, it looks like that. So whatever inflation, because production has not gone up, and people's expenditure capability is also less. So entitlement has also gone down. You can see because of the price rise. Even a small egg also in Shillong, we are buying almost at a double price whatever we used to have. We never saw in our life that suddenly potato become 40 rupees a kg. Not 40, now 50 rupees here. So maximum 30 every year comes at this point of time. So you can easily understand what type of increase in the price level. So this general food inflation without having any impact on the employment. So in general, there is a linkage. Those who are from economics, they know that inflation has a capacity to encourage the producing units, and that will create employment. But that is not happening here. So it's a stagflation. Clear? Another thing is that from the theory of trade, export promotion is more desirable than the import restriction in respect. in LDCs. So though our present policy is where we go, you have seen that last 3 months there was some data that our foreign exchange reserve has increased. So some people were very happy. So that increase in foreign exchange reserve was not a very good sign for India. Why that happened temporarily? Because of the lockdown, a great percentage of the crude oil that we import that had declined. So what happened in the process that your export bill export also reduced, but the reduction in import was much more. So more than 60% rather during that same quarter of the previous year if you compare. Whereas export declined by 60%, but import declined by about 62%, export declined by 55%. So that's why there some improvement in the balance of payment and our foreign exchange reserve has increased. But what happened when you do not import much of the gold? Now even the poor people who are now giving marriage to their daughter, etc., arranging. So they are buying gold even at the 55,000 rupees per 10 gram, you can see. So from the individual's point of view, their expenditure capability how changed, switched over. A person who has 2 school children at home, every month they have to spend about 1,000 for the data pack. And buy a new mobile 30,000, 40,000. His price also increased. The electronic items, which is to be sold at a reduction at this time every year. Now its price also increased. So their expenditure on the food, nutrition, etc. They had to curtail. And trade scenario, so whatever export is now possible, only the main essential items. And there our efficiency is not that. How much of the pharmaceutical or the medical aids that India export? That is another question. So if it could be possible, then it would be. Otherwise, not. So any other question? Could helicopter money be useful in this situation? I don't know. What will the government use it? What is he wanted to ask, Priya Agarwal?
Priya Agarwal, you may unmute your mic and ask questions to sir directly.
Sir, I want to ask that could the government use helicopter money in this situation?
How they can use it, I do not know.
Sir, helicopter money is a kind of money that government could give low income people for more and more expending so that they could create demand or spend money more and more.
That I understood. You, as some people were asking, some Nobel laureates also, that directly transfer money to the poor's account.
Yes, yes.
And their expenditure capability.
Yes,
But
sir, yes.
where will they spend? You will not buy and eat more rice every day or more potato every day. Only that price of these items only increased. Rather where it could spend for any constructive or useful production activities like that. So unless that happens, they will spend more on the liquor and other thing. Even in some places, you know, that where double rice is given per head in his family, many of them are again reselling in the market and using some useless expenditure for that purpose they are using. That is also there. Question is that in general economic activity, when it does not go up, production activities, transport, trade, all these things, unless is there, they cannot eat the money directly, no? What will they do? So
Yes,
so that is one thing. Anyway.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah. How much time will it take Indian economy to come to the normal routine? The normal routine, it will come when all the activities will be reopened. Even if you have to, there is a trade-off. You have to accept some of the COVID. Even after so much of restrictions, now almost 90,000 every day people are getting affected. So what benefit we could get from this lockdown scenario? Rather, instead of locking all the industries, keeping people house arrest almost last 7-8 months, you can say we are house arrest. We cannot move even if we have some emergency work. So even if money is given to my account, I cannot spend my air travel, train, because train is also not there. So where they will spend this money? So and neither, some people are giving positive argument that if lockdown was not there, maybe 3 or 4 lakh every day people could be affected. I don't think so. Initially, there might be a surge in the patient affected people, number of people, but once it reaches saturation, which is reaching now, it could have reached 3 months before, and then it could start falling automatically. So that situation, because it's an uncertainty, so you cannot tell what would have happened and what is this thing. So until and unless you open the economy in a full-fledged way, and not only India, other countries also have to open their economy, because unless other economies are open, you cannot increase your export. So foreign exchange earning also will not improve significantly. That have come down by more than 50%, you can say. So it will take time, at least 1 year I see. Before that, there is no chance of coming to that normal situation. Even if whole economy you reopen, still people are skeptical. They will not move much. It will take to adapt to the new situation again few months, because people will be scared of sending their children outside. They will be scared of going to visit many places. So tourism will not be coming to the normal position so early, even if government allows it to reopen. So many such things are there. The present policy is good to overcome this pandemic. What is your view? I already told, so it is not a new question. Anyway, rather this manufacturing sector could continue by maintaining a distance. The everyday whatever laborers are working, they could make it 50%, and so work could have continued, and this migration would be stopped. It would not have come to that level. So that already gone, that situation now. Anything?
Last question is there, Mr. Anand Pandey. Sir, can you see?
Maximum population, they live in village. Which population are suffering from unemployment? So what solutions? The rural population, those who once migrated for some work in the town, and among them who are in the low scale work, informal sector, or the self-owning business, self-owning in small manufacturing things like bakery and others. So when they came back, that means they are originally from the rural areas mostly. So they affected and joined the reserve army of the labor, you can say, that unemployed force, and they are mostly now what we call the disguisedly unemployed. They are getting 15 days, 10 days in a month work. You have seen several examples even in your West Bengal also. Naturally, they are mostly affected. In the cities, genuine people, those who are in the high collar job, educated, they are working from home. And those who have their own residences, whenever it is reopened, they are getting little bit job, whatever available, because some industries are opened, they are now starving because of the labor shortage. That is also there. There is a demand, but where from they will get immediately that labor, because there is uncertainty. Those who came back to the village, if they go back now, so again they don't know, next day they may be driven out. So again new lockdown will be imposed. So people are in an uncertain situation. I told in the beginning, catch-22 situation. So they are still now suffering. That situation is there.
Sir, there is a question in YouTube link, question raised by Mohammad Junaid Ajam. He is asking you, what could be steps made by Indian government for less educated laborers for which it could be difficult to work with restrictions due to COVID, because they are still confused?
That I already answered, no? They are in catch-22 situations. Rather, it should be unlocked. Totally, they should be allowed to do the work. Those people are not affected. Vulnerable is the old aged people, those who have comorbidity. So some of you will see whatever deaths. I think today it reached almost 1 lakh. No, till yesterday it was 99 lakh 800 like this, 99,800. So in India it is now crossed today 1 lakh. So what happened out of this 1 lakh? If you see, more than 80,000 died because of the comorbidity. Only 5% reason maybe because of this corona. If it was not there, they could survive another few months, 1 year like that. So the situation. So why not to allow the work to continue? If they get less nutrition, they will become rather more vulnerable from this corona, because those who are returnees, they are now affecting the others by second party, third party contract. Even our university campus also now we are getting patients, because many people who came back, some of their children also came back, but there is no symptom, asymptomatic, but they are affecting others from them. So those people who are strong, they are in working age, their chance is very less. So they are, if it is open also, no problem. Problem is for the aged. So some restrictions can be given to the people who are more than 55 or 60, and with some compensatory wages and others, that when everything will be okay, you can join. But at least young aged people could work. So that planning could have been done earlier. So then it could be much in a better position. And then in the production front, in the marketing front, channelization, intermarket linkages, all these things could not be disturbed so much. So everything, prices also, regional differences is huge now, widened, we have seen.
Sir, last question, Anand Pandey. Sir, can you see the question?
I told no already.
Okay. So I think there is no other question came in any other form, YouTube or Google Meet. Sir, thank you, sir, for giving us such an enlightened speech to us. And I think over the region, people have understood properly what is happening and what is going to happen, and some future predictions sir has also made. Thank you very much, sir. Now we'll be shifting to our second speaker. I hand over the mic to Professor Orinda Chakraborty to give introduction about Mr.
Yes, sir. Before announcing the name of the second speaker, I think we should confirm whether he is in the Gmeet link. Actually, the problem is that he joined through YouTube link. I have already talked with him twice over telephone. He said he is in the Gmeet, but I cannot figure him out in the list. Also, sir, are you there in the Gmeet?
Dr. Anwar,
Sir, if you are here, please respond. Unmute your. Also, sir, if you are here, please unmute yourself and please confirm whether you are here. Also, sir. Actually, he first joined through YouTube, and as I couldn't see him in the list, his name in the list, so I already have talked with him over telephone twice. And he said he's in the Gmeet link. He can see the proceedings, he can see the lecture output, sir. But I cannot figure him out in the list. That is the problem. Okay, in that case,
सर अपने ओना के गूगल मीट का लिंक
yes, I have already requested him to join to the link provided by me or provided by Srikanto. He has already joined to the link provided by Srikanto. He is telling me, but I cannot see him in the list. So it is better to announce the name of the third speaker. Mr. Sir, are you ready? Mr. Sir, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are changing our schedule little bit.
Yes, I'll be talking to.
Okay, we are changing our schedule little bit. We will be waiting for our second speaker, and by that time,
Hello, sir. Okay.
we'll be glad to hear Professor Raghuveer Vista about this topic. Professor Orinda Chakraborty, please give some introduction about Professor Raghuveer Vista. Then he will start his speech.
Okay. Thank you, yes, sir. Yes, thank you, yes, sir. Dr. Raghuveer Vista is working as associate professor in the Department of Economics, Tribhuvan University, Nepal. He did his MPhil from Jadavpur University, Calcutta, as a Sandy Fellow, and PhD from Tribhuvan University as University Grand Commission Fellow. Dr. Vista has more than 2 decades of teaching experience. He has authored 4 books and has a good number of national and international publications. Basically, he serves as editor of Journal of Denu Business Review, Journal of Women's Entrepreneurship and Employment, Journal of International Review, and Journal of Management. Today, he will be speaking on COVID-19 and economy in SAARC countries with special reference to Nepal, observations, lessons, and options. Now, I hand over the session to Dr. Vista. Please, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good evening. May I know about my presentation?
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, just make it up full screen, if possible, or if you wish to.
Yeah, thank you. Dear respected chair, dear HOD, dear convener or Professor Anwar Chakraborty, and respected professor, and respected associate professor, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for providing me this great opportunity to be resource person to speak on SAARC countries and COVID in this remarkable international webinar. I would like to start from my presentation. I just changed slightly my title, which was mentioned in the flyer. My title is I speak on the COVID-19 and economy in SAARC with special reference to Nepal, observation, lesson, and options. In my presentation, I have divided in the 6 segments, but I would like to start from this quotation. We shall enhance cooperation in trade, investment within the region, open up markets for each other, and promote trade and investment facilitation and liberalization, strengthen regional economic integration. Of the quotation of Liu Jin. I would like to remind or remember in 1980s scenario, our head of states had a dream of regionalism and South Asian Union as a reflection of success story of ASEAN and NAFTA and other regional organizations. And then after the second wave of liberalization and globalization to achieve one region for collectivism and economic cooperation for common issues. And it was materialized by politically and realignment of political identities and loyalties from the state of the region. For what? For regional integration, free flow of goods, services, people, investment, technology, and other resources in our common goal, and for addressing the different types of the socio-economic issues. Ultimately, they had made one regional goal: regional security, peace, development, and welfare. And in this situation, ultimate, their dream was complete economic integration at South Asian region. And they, after the meeting, after the establishment of the SAARC in 1985, and they mention the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation is the regional intergovernmental organization and geopolitical union of states in South Asia, with the certain objectives to improve quality of life and welfare of the people, to improve economic, social, cultural development, and to contribute mutual trust and understanding, to strengthen cooperation among themselves and other developing countries, to cooperate on issues like water resources. But in the threat of the COVID, regional SAARC is quite relevant. But unfortunately, if we observe, I've observed the certain issues in our regional organization, in the trap of diplomatic, structural, institutional, functional crisis after 35 years, along with I find the emerging individualism and nationalism issues in the spirit of collectivism and regionalism. Second one is the ignoring bilateral issue-led bilateral diplomatic tension induced national non-alignment with regionalism. Third one, emerging nationalist-led member countries' government. And fourth observation, regionalism, power, politics, disorder, disarray. And nowadays, we are in the divide under the influence of Belt Road Initiation and US-led alliance. And then after what we found, no unity, no mutual trust, no mutual cooperation, no coordination, no diplomatic initiation. And to fight against, to tackle COVID, nowadays, we have not our fund, we have not institutional function, we have not cooperation, we have not technology. That is our situation. And if we observe the COVID-19 scenario based on the world, COVID's, database, out of the 8 countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal are found hotspot on the basis of the death rates and the infected people. But the interestingly and surprisingly, Bhutan and Nepal and Afghanistan have low intensity of COVID-19 cases. And if we observe the 2-period comparison, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Pakistan, we can easily find out the higher percentage rate of the change in the cases with the new cases. But when we observe, and the deaths also, but when we observe the recovery, we have a certain optimism. But still, we must conclude South Asia is also in the critical threat of the COVID-19, and all countries have used the lockdown measures. It also shows despite the using the lockdown measures, we have a significant growth of the COVID cases. But when we talk about the world, all of you know about the 215 countries are affected, and still you can easily find out USA led to all the countries. But when we observe the present scenario, at the September 30, you can easily find out after the USA, India, and then Brazil, and the scenario is changing, and India is a epicenter of the South Asia or the SAARC countries. And all of you know about the case of Spain and case of Italy, and these cases are coming or emerging in South Asia. And in this situation, what are COVID-19 as a big issue in our region. And despite the traditional and homeopathy school of thought that is a COVID-19 as just like cough and seasonal respiratory viral, we cannot ignore the guidelines and reports of WHO and 1 million death toll, 34.1 million affected people, and the bad experiences of the affected people, and unsuccessful story of antidote development to underestimate this deadest health hazard, COVID-19. Therefore, we should be sensitive to this issue as possible as for prevention and also for waiting cure option, not only at clinical level, but also its visible and invisible socio-economic consequences at macro level and at micro level in terms of the growth of unemployment and hunger in SAARC. And to observe this issue, I have, 4 objectives in this paper: to observe the COVID-19 scenario and its threat in Nepal, to account total economic cost of COVID-19 to Nepalese economy, to assess the potential impacts of COVID-19 at macro and micro level and its future risk, to find out lesson learned and options. And to achieve the all above objectives, I use the certain models, and one is the simple methodology to calculate the cost of output loss in our economy, and then after I use the economic model to find out the effects of COVID and lockdown, and I will present its result. And it's data and methodology. Generally, it's research design, analytical, empirical nature. But I use the time series data available in the WHO websites and the Ministry of Health Nepal, and along with the certain economic indicators information collected from FNCCI, CNI, and NRB websites. And my first result is the COVID scenario in Nepal. If you observe, in one city, COVID's first case was outbroken, and after then 23rd March, Nepal, like as the India, Nepal started to use the lockdown measure, and then after that lockdown till the 23rd July, and that is the first lockdown. And if you observe the second lockdown, August 16 to September 7, and it is similar with the India. But if you observe the scenario or the at 30 September 2020's COVID affected case 77,817, and if you observe our in Nepal, COVID cases emerged at the 23rd May, and before 2 months, we imposed the lockdown. And when we observe the lockdown, last of the lockdown and the second in the lockdown, we can easily find out the amazingly lockdown is not effective to control, to minimize the number of the COVID. And in this situation, but interestingly, this slide shows us we are able to improve our recovery capacity and to reduce the number of the cases. And in this situation, we have also the more than 70% recovery rate. And that is the interesting and impressive thing. But if we observe the health system in Nepal, we have used only the public health system instead of the private health system to respond the COVID. And when you observe it's COVID-19 case and the recovery by sex, you can easily find out it affected more to male and less to female. And when we observe the recovery, you can easily find out the recovery rate is higher to the male. Male's rate is higher than female. But when we talk about the recovery and the date, we can easily find out the oldest people above less than 50% recovery is higher, but the above the 50 years age is less, or the almost date is found to related to the above 50 years. But when we talk about the province, all of you know about Nepal has the 7 provinces, and if you observe the scenario, we can easily find out the province 2, province 3, province 5, and the 7 are the hotspots of the COVID-19. But when we talk about the vulnerability rank and also the test rank, we can easily find out there is found the mismatch situation, misallocation and overallocation of the PCR test. But you can easily find out this scenario. But in the case of the second, it is not improving, but the vulnerability index is little bit changed. Our province 3 follows the secure the second position, that is the Kathmandu Valley. And what are the causes behind it? And we have all these COVID cases are analyzed, and then after we found all are imported through the returning of labor from India, from the other foreign employment destination, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Malaysia, and other countries. And in this situation, at first phase, during the first lockdown, we had 49 districts affected, and that is the 63% of the 77 districts. But at the present moment, we have all the districts are affected, and that is the scenario. And the Kathmandu Valley is a hot spot of the COVID-19 at present moment. And in this situation, like WHO, whatever WHO recommended, Nepal has followed it, and including the aggressive testing campaign, lockdown, using sanitizer and mask, social distancing measures. But the situation is, when we observe all these things, we can find out the finding one is the unnecessary and unproductive lockdown imposed before 2 months in the absence of any cases, and growth of the 204 or COVID-19 cases during the lockdown. And when we observe some issues, we can easily find out lockdown was used as a holistic measure imposed not on time, and in Indo-Nepal border is open, and it is a symbol of the friendship between the Nepal and India. But unfortunately, in the case of the terrorism, in the case of the narcotic, in the case of the COVID, we haven't effectively surveillance to human movement. And another part is the no proper management of testing examination in the Indo-Nepal border when India opened the transportation to return Nepalese labor from India to Nepal. No proper isolation and quarantine, and no proper record and tracking, no priority on emergency health measure, institution and phone on time. And also Nepal has experimented to give the responsibility to all local government despite the need of the central government's emergency institution. But when we talk about the sanitizer, we observe, in transportation, government office and industry, we haven't found the use of the sanitizer. And similarly, this is the one informal picture shows us the no social distancing in local transport and office. And besides it, we can easily find out the neither at local level nor at government level social distancing is not properly practiced. And COVID now, is a big issue, and it has COVID now. We use the lockdown measure, but it has negative consequences on socio-economic sector. And first of all, first consequence is sector's output loss. When we observe its losses and we calculate it, and then after we found all economies have output loss per day loss 10 billion rupees, and in Nepal. And including agriculture, fishery, mines, industry, electricity, construction, wholesale, hotel, and transportation, financial sector, real estate, public administration, education, health, and other sector. And then after, it is recommended or validated by the government, and except the agriculture sector, all sector have negative growth in the including industry, government, hotel, transport, communication, trade. And if you observe the negative value of the negative economic sector slowdowns in terms of negative value, we can find out the hotel and restaurant has more slowdown than transport and communication, industry, government, and trade. But the if we rank, first vulnerable sector is hotel and restaurant, second one transport and communication, third one is industry, and fourth one is trade sector. And it shows the except the agriculture, please remember. And I try to show some examples of the slowdown in Tamil. All of you know about this is the heart of the Kathmandu Valley. About approximately 700 shops were closed down due to the COVID and lockdown. And after then, in recently, in Biratnagar, in that place near the Indo-Nepal border, in the eastern side, two beautiful hotels were closed down due to the lockdown and COVID. And after then, when we talk, we are much more optimistic on the financial sector. But you see, when we talk about the loan demand, we found the slowdown or the no new loan demand at present moment, and these also supported to the sectoral slowdown in our economy. And if you observe the trade sector, it also shows us the such situation. And ultimately, its second consequences after the slowdown of the economic sector, what will happen? Negative impact goes on the economic growth. And nowadays, in 2019, last year, we had 2.5% economic growth rate, and 2020, it will be 0.1% negative 0.1% economic growth rate. And in accordance with the IMF, we will get also the 3% negative economic growth rate. And consequence in three, and after the slowdown of the economic sector, we lost the huge employment opportunities. And all of you know about in the South Asia, all the our informal sector dominate to our employment structure, and all of you know about the agriculture and forestry sector dominate to our employment opportunities. And when we count the employment opportunities, approximately 7.6 million population involved in the formal employment opportunities. When we observe the employment rate, you can easily find out the 34.2% employment to population ratio, 38.5 labor force participation rate, and unemployment rate is 11.4%. But after the COVID, that situation changes, and our employment to population ratio is 17.8%, and employment force labor participation rate 22.1%, and unemployment rate is 27.8% by increasing 16.4% unemployment due to the COVID. And when we observe what is the consequence on the urban and rural area, we found the more effect in urban area than the rural area, and the more effect on the male than female. And another part is that after loss of the employment opportunities, what will happen? Its second consequence, the possible social transformation, socio-economic transformation of women's discrimination and empowerment more in urban than in rural areas. And in Nepal, massive youth unemployment will be a big threat to the Nepalese economy. And it is validated by the government's report, and nowadays you can easily government reported 31% employment loss all over the country, all the provinces. And fourth consequence, Nepal, our foreign employment is a major source of remittance income in our country. In GDP, it contributes 28%. And if we all go to the figure of the foreign employment, 4.3 million population of million people are outside the country, and 8.0 million is, it is estimated in India. And in this situation, what will happen? Slowdown, possible economic slowdown of labor destination countries, affecting job demands for foreign labor and its negative consequence to return in Nepal. And if job is available, its wage level may be lower than their expectation. It will be financial risk to Nepalese labor. And it is expected that 2 million labor will return in Nepal. And in accordance with the IMF remittance, the growth of the remittance will be 23%. And in this situation, its negative consequences maybe multiple and multi-layer at macro and micro level. And finding to except the agriculture sector, all economic sectors are slowdown and contraction of the economic growth and employment, loss of employment, output and income of Nepal, and it indicates economic recession towards depression. I don't hope, but our statistics of the SAARC countries also maybe in the in the part of economic recession. Result 3, and when I calculate and estimate the economic cost of the COVID-19, it's based on the output loss. I found in the production all the economic sector so loss is the 1,266.8 billion rupees. That is a 33.9% of our GDP. Revenue loss 272 billion. That is a 7.3% of GDP. And cost of health recovery, which is spent by the individual person based on the average expenditure, and 2.88 billion, 0.1% of GDP. And government investment on the health sector, 13 billion, and that is 0.3%. And altogether, it gives us the 54.65 billion rupees economic loss, and that is the 14 billion US dollar. And in GDP, it will be the 41.6%. And in this situation, and when we compare the last year's budget, it is the 1 year budget of our country, and it is it means it is a it means it is a serious issue to our economy or our And when I observe, use the regression model to measure the effects of COVID and the lockdown, I found the 0.86 coefficient or the effects to our GDP, and then after minus 0.40 COVID-19. In the situation, lockdown's effect is more than COVID-19, and besides it, resilience issues of market, production, distribution, and our imperfect economic system are also integrated with the such issue. In this situation, findings trace the unexpected huge output loss to the economy of Nepal led to negative economic growth rate. Lockdown's effect is more than COVID-19's in our GDP. And what is the effects of COVID-19 and lockdown and economic loss at macro and micro level? I found its negative impact can be found due to remittance. First of all, if you observe this slide, you can easily find out the
Mr. Sir, your microphone has been muted by someone.
Our remittance contributed 28% in our economy, and that is the pre-COVID scenario. But after the COVID, there is a huge possibility of 18%, and after then it contributed 60% to our foreign exchange, and after the COVID, it will it will be 39%. And when we talk about the months, remittance contributed 7 months import, and after the COVID, it will be maybe 4.55. And in this situation, it contributes to the positive BOP balance of payment, but despite the degrowth of the remittance. And in this situation, in future, it will be the big challenge to our macroeconomic stability and economic growth rate. And similarly, all of you know about Nepal's economy is small, and when we observe the SAARC revenue and GDP ratio, Nepal's it is 25%, and like as the other countries, we have 80% indirect tax. The direct tax is 20%, and revenue is the 1,000 billion rupees just managing regular expenditure. And due to the COVID, what happened? 200 billion rupees loss, leading to wider budget deficit and fiscal deficit. And in this situation, our Ministry of Finance, state, or they release the praise. We spend 40 billion rupees per month, but we earn 15 billion rupees revenue per month. In this situation, what will happen? Lead to them, its consequences: the growth of expenditure, demand pressure to revenue mobilization. Second one is revenue review of the budget and explore debt for regular expenditure or new currency printing, and consequence in failure budget of the federal government and the province government. That situation happened, and in this situation, Nepal should think about and formulate budgetary policy towards the self-reliant economy in this case, to address this such situation. And when we talk about the poverty growth, and if you observe here, you can easily find out our income distribution. We have 4 groups of the income distribution. Upper class holds or gets the 2% upper class, and the 22% middle, and vulnerable group is 45, and 31 is a poor group in the pre-COVID-19. But what will happen due to the COVID-19? And in the case of the upper class and middle class, there is no change. But in the case of the vulnerable group, you can easily find a certain person, about approximately 7.47%, shifts to the poor group or the more vulnerable group. Please remember. And after then, what are the drivers of the poverty reduction? If you observe here, 52% household depend on the labor income, and 27% depends on the remittance income. And after the COVID, what was the situation? And 52% shifts to the 35.4%, and after then, remittance income shifts to the 20.76%. And it shows us our poverty level will be 31.6%, and it is a massive poverty, and hunger and vulnerability will be a big threat in coming days. And it also transforms the social, economic, and political level, not only at the rural and urban area. But what is its severity? I have not listened in India and Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other countries. It's examples, but in Nepal, due to the COVID-19, due to the hunger, certain few peoples are dead, and also the one girl suicided, and that was the example of the severity of the COVID-19's effect. And similar, it also follows at that time period, domestic violence and suicide cases are found increasing trend, and its cost is used to the society. And in this situation, I have found the finding, port finding groups in economic slowdown, loss of employment, output, income may increase, massive poverty and hunger all over the country. Hunger caused the growth of social crimes, including suicide, and lockdown has increased domestic violence, other social crimes, particularly female. And on the basis of my findings, I conclude here, COVID-19 is infectious disease infecting 34.1 million population, killing 1 million population in 215 countries of the world, where its intensity is extremely more in G20 countries with a higher transmission rate. And IMF expected $3 trillion loss with 3% degrowth. And on the basis of that, COVID-19 pandemic is a big threat to the world. Similar scenario is found in South Asia, in SAARC countries, where its rate is slow and gradual, but its intensity occurs mainly 4 countries of SAARC: India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Nepal. And out of 8 SAARC countries, India is an epicenter of the COVID-19 based on her second rank in the COVID-19 in the world dashboard. And in SAARC, Nepal ranks at the 4th, but at the 47th position rank in 215 countries of the world. COVID-19 is a big threat to Nepal with respect to the growth of COVID-19 cases, with 1,000 new cases per day. And then after, sector, when we economically, sector economic of Nepal, including industry, trade, transportation, service, hotels, contracted except agriculture due to the lockdown and COVID-19. Its consequences are 30% loss of employment, 40% loss of income, output, and negative growth 0.1%. And the economy is being recession towards depression. Here is the growth of macroeconomic instability and massive hunger and social crimes. Then its further shock will instability and arrogant to the government policy, behavior, activities. Its consequences will be public movements, political order and disorder, and political equilibrium and disequilibrium will emerge. And despite the exogenous shock, Nepal should find crisis management at endogenous level by boost of demand side of the market with direct money transfer and supply side with the fiscal and monetary stimulus package to 3 years, survival, stable and stimulus of production sector, along with inclusive growth. The state should play a leading role to strengthen production and market along healthcare system. If not, all budgetary policy will be failure. Its result will be political change as a way forward. Time to come to think about economic system and its philosophy and political structure and political economy. And lesson learned, why, from this, paper, I found the natural and unnatural disaster suddenly happens with risk, loss, and vulnerability in the world. Preparation and resilience are must to save life, socio-economic and politics of the country. Individual country cannot do much more in the resource constraint. Therefore, we need collectivism as alternative for regional cooperation. It makes relevant to SAARC not only at present but also at future because of the climate change and other threats. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Raghuveer Vista. The model you have shown to us is self-explanatory, and it is very much clear to all of us what is happening in Nepal and what problem is there, how government is trying to solve that. Actually, among the SAARC countries, cooperation should be much more so that the problem can be solved. This is the time now for the leaders of every nation of SAARC countries to cooperate each other so that the problem can be solved for the people. And we have to come together in a large extent. Apart from solving our own problem of our own country, we have to look after the neighboring countries and we have to inter-exchange lots of things, ideas with each other. SAARC level meeting is very much necessary, what I feel as per your speech, so that we can, every country has some advantages and some disadvantages that can be solved by that way. Now it's time for question and answer. One question came from Anand Pandey. He is asking that what is the solution of increasing GDP in Nepal, according to you? How GDP can be increased? Mr. Vista, please.
Yeah. Thank you. At the threat of risk of the COVID-19, we cannot think about the increasing GDP and economic growth. We have to think about the how to stabilize and how to recovery of our economic sector and stabilize, and then to fight against the recession and depression. And for this purpose, to respond to that issue, we have to not only think about the demand side, not only think about the supply side, including the industry, enterprises, and other different types of the production sector, but we have to think about demand side. In our case, government has initiated certain major tax neutral certain reschedule the tax spent time period, and little bit subsidize the electricity and other things also, but not much more stimulus bring the stimulus package to stabilize and to recovery our economic activities. But and then after, our business sector, our supply side expect the implementation properly, monetary policy. But unfortunately, what will happen? Lockdown. Well, when we impose the lockdown, it is not only the imposed for the individual person. We are also, close down our government offices. And in this situation, over 4 and 5 months, we haven't implement our budgetary, programs, and we haven't, implement our monetary policies related, programs. That is the scenario, and its effects we cannot find. Another part is the Nepal government of Nepal has ignored the supply, demand side injection or the stimulus package. Government just talk about the to provide the different types of the relief packages, but unfortunately government has not provided the relief package to the individual households. And in this situation, when I present my when I talk my the in Nepal's case issue, I shown the deaths and suicide due to the hunger. And that is the big problem at present moment. In the situation at present moment, government of Nepal has to initiate to bring recovery, special economic package for recovery and stimulus, and then after we can easily achieve the economic growth rate. Can I justify? Yes.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Professor Onimit Rai of SRL Mahavidyalaya. He is asking about Nepal being a landlocked country is highly dependent upon India for most goods, products and services.
Yeah.
With the COVID lockdown and Indo-Nepal borders have been sealed and closed for more than half a year by now, how is Nepal coping and overcoming the problem arising due to border lockdown?
We have not a option. We are the friendly countries. We love each other, not only the politically, but also the socio-economically, and also the our people's level also. And open border is a symbol of our traditional friendship. But situation is what happened. We have not prepared properly. And in this situation, when we talk about the terrorism, when we talk about the weapons, illegal narcotic, transportation and illegal, weapons transportation, this open border is a big challenge. And now this COVID-19 is also big challenge to not only the Nepal but also the India. At the initial phase, what happened from March to the May? At that time period, Indian citizens thought. At that time period, Indian citizens thought Nepal is a resilient for the COVID-19, and in this way they tried to enter the Nepal. And in this situation, it also created the problem. And during the lockdown, what happened? India opened up the transportation. And the Nepalese people who work in India, Delhi, Gujarat, and other places, and they try to come in Nepal. And in this situation, it also creates the problem. And what will happen? Nepal cannot manage the proper, testing system, proper examination, and proper isolation, and the proper, surveillance. And that factor, is a big issue at present moment. And in this situation, both countries should be aware, to make a surveillance, not only COVID period, but also the normal situation. Then after we can solve the such types of the issue between the two countries.
Sir, next question comes from Dr. Annadurai. He is asking that what is the healthcare facility in Nepal more in public or private sector? How much medical expenses for COVID-19 Nepal government has spent?
Our health system is a mixed system. It is public oriented, but but we also open up or liberalize the health sector for the private sector. in this situation, we can easily find out the mixed scenario. But at present moment, at the critical situation, what will happen? Private sector are de-interested, or they have are de-interested to cooperate to the government. And in this situation, all the public health institution or the system are only effective to respond the COVID-19. And at present moment, approximately, government has allocated 90 billion rupees on the in the health sector in this last year's this present budget, and 90 billion. I think approximately 6%. But when we talk about the COVID-19's case, government allocate 13 billion rupees, and it is small size of the amount of the approximately 1 to 2% of GDP percent budget, and it is not sufficient. And at present moment, what will happen? COVID-19 is a quite serious and critical issue, but the government use the decentralized model, and the government, central government, activate the local government to to test, to examine, to track, and to isolate, and to provide the quarantine facility all over the country. And in this situation, what will happen? At the normal situation, we have not provided the doctors, infrastructure, and other facilities all over the country. But COVID-19 is a serious issue. But we gave the responsibility to those hospitals and the district hospitals and clinics and clinics and health centers for without infrastructure, without doctor, and without the other facilities, and that is the big problem. And but in this situation, what will happen? Central government just use the lockdown to minimize the COVID-19's cases, except the establishing emergency healthcare, health institutions and fund and its function. And in this situation, we have you can easily find out the growth of the COVID cases. It shows us the ineffectiveness of lockdown, ineffectiveness of our healthcare system. Despite although we have more than 70% recovery, but when we observe the death rate, we have 354 death toll.
Sir, our next question raised by Madam Vaishnavi Srivastava. She is asking, how is Nepal overcoming the issue of unemployment of laborers? Is there any relaxation strategy for them to sustain in this global pandemic?
I think in this world, three leaders have a vocal. One is Trump, second is Modi, and third one is our Prime Minister. And Prime Minister is also have spoken many things, but when we observe the reality, we cannot find all these things. And I have already mentioned, due to the lockdown, we have not executed properly and effectively our national budget and our monetary policy, and we have not active the other economic activities. And in this situation, we have only one option: agriculture sector. Agriculture sector is our traditional agriculture sector may absorb our unemployment of youths in the rural area, but in the urban area there is a critical issue. In this way, if you observe and if you listen the news of Nepal, you can easily find out large size of the urban labor who engage in the different types of the industries and service sector, and other people return to the rural area. And nowadays, I think the agriculture sector is only hope. But when we talk about the government, I think we cannot hope much more, because it is just vocal. It is not; its effects cannot be found in reality.
Thank you, sir. One question came in YouTube link. Mr. Dharmender ji he is asking, sir, how can the economy of both the improved and strengthening the India-Nepal relationship? He is asking about how India and Nepal relationship can increase the problem, can reduce the problem.
Yes, this is very diplomatic issue, but the we can also we have a good relationship with at the people's level. In this way, I try to respond to it. We have good relationship traditionally, and also the when we observe the bilateral relationship, we can easily find out the one touch of the passion and the love. But nowadays, in certain, over 2-3 years, that relationship is broken. And but I think behind it, when we analyze, we can easily find out the our internal politics and the government's internal politics are the interest is a major thing. That is the all governments. Our government is also talking about the national issue. And when we observe the Indian government talks about the much more national issue, but without the diplomatic negotiation and talk communication and also the initiation. And in this situation we found the certain types of the sadness and also the spoiled situation of our Indo-Nepal relationship. But the if you observe, we cannot change our friendship, we cannot change our geography, and we cannot change our relationship. And in this situation, India must understand about it, Nepal must understand about it. We cannot change next board. And in this situation, we have to continue our diplomatic negotiation. And if we have the any types of the issue, first of all we talk about the we bring in the table, and then after we talk about. But the if you observe here, we can easily find out the our prime minister talks on diplomatically, and somewhere you can easily find out India side, not the prime political level, but the on diplomatically, and it makes the space for different types of the problems between the two countries. And nowadays you can easily find out India, in China, and the American and other countries have also the interest. These are also interest plays the also spoil the our relationship. In this situation, India must lead and must open to talk to the Nepal, and also the bilaterally they have to sit each other, and then after to sort out the issues, and based on the their own mutual benefit and mutual relationship. And then if it is possible, it will be the beneficial not only the Nepal but also the India also. And we also respect, and also the we think about the Nepal. India is a major country which can transform and change development of the Nepal also, because of the landlockedness, because of the other different types of the our economic and social dependency. But we must maintain the national interest and to try to solve the each other's issue by sitting together in the table. Then I think it will resolve all the problems, and we can get the better relationship than before.
So thank you, sir. Your last concluding speech is very much enlightened. I hope leaders of all the countries of SAARC should know about the view of you, and this is the voice what should be spread to all the countries, that without cooperation we cannot live alone. Thank you, sir. Now we are coming to the third session of the last session of today's program. Our next speaker has been joined, Mr. Anwar Hussein. Thank you, Professor Anwar Hussein, to our webinar. We missed you a little bit time ago. Now I hand over Professor Orinda Chakraborty to give little introduction about Mr. Anwar Hussein. Then he will start his presentation or valuable discussion. over to Professor Orinda Chakraborty.
Thank you, Hirak sir. Professor Mohammad Anwar Hussein obtained the degree of Master of Social Science in Social Welfare from the University of Dhaka. He did MPhil in Public Administration from the University of Bergen, Norway, and PhD in Social Welfare from the University of Dhaka. He started his professional career as a lecturer in social work in the University of Rajshahi in 1998. Subsequently, he joined as associate professor in the Department of Social Work, Jagannath University, Dhaka, and promoted to professor in 2015. More than 23 research articles of Professor Hussein have been published in national and international referred journals. He has presented papers in national and international conferences as well. Presently, he is serving as the treasurer of Bangladesh Council for Social Work Education and associate editor of Bangladesh Journal of Social Work. Today, he will be speaking on psychosocial impact of COVID-19 in respect of SAARC countries with special reference to Bangladesh. Now I hand over the session to Professor Dr. Mohammad Anwar Hussein. Please, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, you are audible, sir.
Audible, okay. Honorable moderator,
Sir, Dr. Raghubir Mr. please stop presenting.
organizer, learned speaker,
Dr. Raghubir Vista, please you stop your presentation. Next speaker will be presenting now. Dr. Vista, please stop your presentation. Our previous speaker, Dr. Raghubir Vista, please stop your presentation. You be with us, just off the presentation screen, so that it will facilitate the next speaker. Our technical support person, Srikanto, can you stop the presentation from your controlling end? Yes, it is. Continue, sir.
Anwar sir, please continue.
Anwar sir,
Sir, you are not.
Anwar sir, please, you are not audible. You
Sir,
cannot
please
hear
remove your headphone.
now can you listen to me?
Yes, it is. Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Honorable moderator, learned speaker, and participants, good evening to all. First of all, I would like to thank to the organizer for giving me an opportunity to speak in the session. Now I would like to welcome you to my presentation. Title of my presentation is Psychosocial Impact of COVID-19 in respect of SAARC countries with special reference to Bangladesh. I am trying to start my PowerPoint. there is a problem in my computer, I think. So I am presenting orally.
Yes, you continue.
Sorry for this inconvenience. The outbreak of novel coronavirus that was emerged in the Wuhan, China, already infected all over the world, and about 3,40,56,220 people are infected, and 10,15,000 people have already been died. In South Asia, India scored the top, that is where infected person is, the number of infected person is 62,87,000 and death 98,000, and followed by Bangladesh. The rapid spread of COVID-19 since the end of 2019 is putting immense pressure on economic and social condition in South Asian countries like all over the world. The COVID pandemic is causing an unprecedented health and economic crisis for global economic in Bangladesh too. In the absence of vaccine and or effective treatment, the governments worldwide implemented large-scale lockdown measures and lifting economic activities to the essential to combat the situation. Coupled with the social distancing measures taken by the government to avoid the infections of virus, these actions have resulted in huge short-term economic losses. After the withdrawal of lockdown measures, economic activities are gradually resuming, but we do not know when the full swing activities will be started and livelihoods of the people will be resumed properly. In Bangladesh, Institute of Epidemiology, Disease Control and Research, a research institute under the Ministry of Health responsible for COVID-19 surveillance in Bangladesh. This institute first confirmed the COVID-19 cases on 7 March 2020, followed by a nationwide lockdown of all educational institutes, government and private offices, and industries from 26th of March 2020. At the same time, the government of Bangladesh deployed armed forces from 24 March to facilitate the social distancing and prevention of disease. Emergency healthcare services and law enforcement services were exempted from the lockdown situation. However, the health system was not in a position in Bangladesh to combat this situation at the initial stage. This includes the lack of trained doctors and health professionals to deal with the COVID-19, lack of health infrastructure to deal with COVID-19, severe lack of biomedical waste management facilities, lack of testing facility, and lack of budget or financial support to respond to this outbreak properly. For instance, very low ratio of intensive care unit beds in our hospitals, limited centralized COVID testing facilities, along with biased testing selection cases, low test rate, lack of substandard quality of personal protective equipment for the caregivers, lack of institutional isolation units, and very poor coordination in health management system. But the situation has been developed at present because of adopting appropriate measures by the government as well as by private sectors. This whole situation has drastically changed the life situation of Bangladesh, likewise other countries of South Asia and all over the world. The population is experiencing a new, unpredictable, and rapidly evolving situation. They have to stay confined at home. Family dynamics have remarkably changed and travel restricted, and there has been a restriction in leisure activities and social life. The work situation has also changed thoroughly. Many people have temporarily or permanently lost their jobs. Many are working from home, sometimes with insufficient preparation for doing so. And those who work in sectors considered essential appear to experience heavy workloads. Increased level of stress and a greater exposure to the virus. This situation also creating heavy pressure on the people, created various types of problems, etc. But what was the perception of the people in this regard? What was the understanding of the general people about the COVID-19 impacts? To understand this situation, the present study has been carried out and presented the findings in the present paper. Now I would like to explain the methodology for carrying out this study. I have already mentioned that the prime objective of this paper is to understand the psychosocial impact of COVID-19 on social life. To attain the objective, a non-experimental research design was prepared to attain the objectives. Actually, the study was qualitative in nature, and case study strategy was followed to doing so. Purposive sampling procedure was followed to select the appropriate cases, and 7 COVID-infected cases were selected from different socio-economic categories and from different areas of Bangladesh. Data were collected from both primary and secondary sources. Primary data were collected through interview that was held through telephone because it is not possible because of COVID-19 situation. Actually, I used the semi-structured interview schedule to collect the data where open-ended questions were included. The interview schedule was designed to cover the extent of psychosocial impact of COVID-19 in social life. Collected by employing FGD, that is focus group discussion, in the purpose of making triangulation. Data are also collected from key informants to have a greater understanding about impact of COVID situation. And the key informants include the physicians, social service provider, and educationists. On the other hand, secondary data were collected by consulting research articles, research reports, and online news portals. However, qualitative method of data analysis was used as a systematic work for analyzing data, and some verbatim quotation has been used to analyze the actual feature of the COVID-19 situation. But description and explanation of themes and concepts are presented in narrative way to seek the answer to the research questions. It should be noted that the ethical position has been considered, and the purpose of the study has been explained before the respondents prior to interview, as well as they were given anonymity of their data. Results of the study. First, I would like to explain the socio-economic profiles of the respondents. The respondents were from different categories. Among the respondents, I have to mention that the FGD was held with both, 2 FGD I have carried out, and one was with female and one was with male. And of course, I conducted the FGD session through Zoom meeting because of COVID situation. Among the respondents, 3 were female and 4 were male. They are from different age groups. Actually, the lowest age was 18 years and the highest age was 50 years of the respondent. They were from the different occupational groups. 2 were students, 2 were teachers, 1 advocate, 1 bank employees, 1 small businessman who is living in the rural area. Some were from the higher economic income group, that is advocate and teacher, and some were from the lower small income group, that is bank employee of lower position as well as a small businessman. On the other hand, the student had no income, though they used to earn some money by private tuition, but because of COVID situation, their income was completely stopped. First, I would like to explain the general perception of the people, and this analysis is based on the FGD as well as data collected from the key informants. General perception regarding psychosocial impact of COVID-19 is varied. The COVID-19 created enormous psychosocial and economic impact on the lives and livelihood of the people. Amidst the lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic, the people have been facing social stigma, fear, and hatred. Because when people infected with COVID, some people do not contact them. Even after recovering from the COVID, some people very much was reluctant to talk with the people, and sometimes they created rumor about the COVID infected people that they are doing some antisocial activities. That is why they are infected with the COVID-19. So these types of social stigma was very much harmful for the people, and that created psychological problem among the infected people. On the other hand, emergency service providers such as frontline doctors, healthcare staffs, caregivers, police and armed forces, bankers and government authority, the people become so scared about this. And this type of situation further created panic among the people. Even the people are scared that they will not get healthcare services in hospital and clinics. In private practitioners, hospitals are shut down due to fear of infections. And it was observed that the many physicians were not eager to provide services, and many people did not get services at hospital and clinics too. This type of situation created other problems, because they think that if they are affected by other diseases, they will not get healthcare services, and the situation will be worsened day by day. That is why the psychological problems, that is stress, anxiety, and depression, were created among the general people at the initial stage of COVID-19 pandemic. Findings of the FGD and key informants interview show that neighbors are not eager to talk to the infected person even after become COVID negative, that I mentioned earlier too. Besides, the deceased was even denied burial in the local graveyards. The people created barriers to complete their burial because they thought that the dead body will spread the coronavirus and people of the local area will be infected with this. That is why the government official had to take instant action, and they take appropriate measures for their burial, complete their burial in the local graveyards. But that was the human rights, and in many cases, the government have to take legal action against the people who who created the barriers or obstacles to the burial of the dead body. Another issue that is very much important for all people, that is the price hike of the daily necessities are observed during the COVID situation due to low supply, and shopkeepers and suppliers stopped working, fearing the infection, and middle income, lower income, and daily wage earners fell into a severe financial shortfall due to loss of jobs and incomes. Actually, along with the daily necessities, the price of essential drugs were also very high at the initial stage, and there was crisis of essential drugs for the treatment of COVID-19, and it was further created the psychological problems among the people of Bangladesh, likewise other countries of third world. It is also found that with the last savings of the poor people, and they maintain their livelihood, and they were plunged to the ultra pro. Actually, many people who are living upper border of the poverty line because of income loss, because of losing their jobs, they become further poor in the COVID situation, and the poverty rate is increasing slowly in Bangladesh. Though the present situation has been changed and conditions have been developed enough because of taking some measures by the government as well as in the private sector. On the other hand, weakening the lockdown, some people doing substandard job because they lose their previous job. FGD findings show that some higher officials of private sector, they lose their job and they earn some money for maintaining their livelihood by doing substandard job. It is found that one of the managers of Singer showroom, he lost his job, and now he is selling vegetable in the roads and earns little amount of money that is very poor to maintain his livelihood, and it created very psychological pressure on him, and it's very tough for him to maintain their daily cost or daily life. On the other hand, due to lockdown, the people are passing their time at home, and since they have no work to do, that is why they are passing time by sleeping and by gossiping, and it created further problems, health problems. That is, some people become the victims of blood pressure and diabetes too, and it is found that after affecting COVID, other types of diseases have been emerged in the people because of serious infection, lung infections, and they are suffering from different types of diseases after recovering from the COVID-19. It should be noted that in many countries, the well-off family providing different type of services, especially they are supplying foods who are among the needy people. The government of Bangladesh also taken some measures and adopted financial package for the betterment of the poor people. But services are not properly reached to the people, actually to the target group. It is found that some corruption have been happened by the corrupted representative of local government, but the government has taken appropriate legal action against the corrupted persons, and the situation has been normal at present. Critical situation at the initial stage, because due to corruption of the local representative of local body, the poor people and the people who are really needy, they did not get appropriate services. They are not get supports from the government officials. That is why I mentioned this issue, that COVID-19 in this situation, though it is very much harmful to us, but some people use it unfair means. In the COVID-19 also has some impact on other sector, and it varies on the basis of economic condition. Especially social impact vary from person to person and family to family. If the COVID infected person is from better off family, usually they do not want to disclose this situation, and the local people did not lock down them. On the other hand, it is found from the FGD findings that in Dhaka city, some poor people are suffering from coughing, but they were not infected with COVID-19, but the local people locked down their family and they had to suffer a lot. Even they did not buy anything from the local shops, and other people do not provide some services, but complaining with the police and health authority, they came there and withdraw the lockdown with the help of police, and then they become the people of this type of this family started their normal livelihood. So impact of COVID-19 in social arena, it varied on the basis of socio-economic condition of the people. The COVID-19 has also impact on children. Children are locked down and they could not go to the outside of the house. They could not play with their friends. They could not interact with their peer groups. That is why they are also suffering from psychosocial problems, and it created obstacle to the development of the children's mental faculty. Now I would like to explain the psychosocial problems on the perception or the perspective of infected persons. Actually, psychosocial impact is connected with the mental and emotional state of the people rather than physical condition. We found that the COVID-19 created a severe impact on the psychological arena, and the people of infected people suffering from severe stress, anxiety, and depression. Actually, when we know that when the people infected with COVID-19, they have to maintain isolation. Even they could not meet their beloved one and children, wife, etc. And it created heavy pressure on them, and they suffer from psychological problems. And it is found that in the initial stage, when they suffer from fever, they had to think whether I shall test or not. And there were sometimes they were in ridiculous situation, whether I have to test the COVID-19 or I have to lead a normal livelihood, because the testing facilities at the initial stage was very very tough to get the serial to test, because the opportunity was very minimum at the initial. And they think that what will be happened if I am infected with the COVID-19. But when they go to the hospital, they have to wait long time, and it created further stress on them, because there are a lot of persons, there are a lot of problems in a hospital, because if they stay there long time, they have to face other problems. That is, they could not eat at the hospital, they could not drink at the hospital. So they were thinking that it was better to not to come to the hospital, but their sense suggested that no, you have to test for the sake of your family and as well as society. Some respondents alleged that they did not find the cooperation from their relatives that they were expected, and that is why they think that the society is not for the men, not for the others. It is very much individualistic, and it intensified their stress among the COVID-infected people. Because of sleeplessness, stress and anxiety further created among the people. One of the respondents mentioned that I had to suffer from sleeplessness, and when I was woke up in the night, then various types of thinking emerged me. What will be happen if I passed away? Then what will do my children? What will do my wife and other relatives? So the COVID-19 created multifarious psychological problem among the affected person. On the other hand, many of the respondents had to take admission into the hospital. Though doctors and caregivers provided services to the COVID-infected person, but when other COVID-infected people passed away, then they become afraid. What will be happening for me? And this type of situation again created stress among the COVID-infected people. Now I would like to explain the social impact. Socially, the COVID-infected people were detached from each other, and it is found that some people did not disclose their infections because of rejection by the society. One of the respondents mentioned that when he was suffering from COVID-19, a lot of police and health workers came to his house to see what is the condition. But it created misunderstanding among the people of their locality. The people thought that actually the police and other officials have come to arrest him, and this issue spread the misconception among the people about the COVID-infected peoples. It is found that the local people created obstruction to the COVID-infected family to go to the outside. If a person affected by COVID, people think that whole family is affected by COVID, so they are not allowed to go to the outside their house. Even after recovering from the COVID-19, the people do not talk with them and sometimes criticize them in different way and try to create obstruction to their movement. One of the respondents mentioned that he was suffering from COVID-19, but now he is recovered from COVID-19. But the people do not come to their shop. Actually, his father is a small businessman, and the people do not come to their shop the fear of infections of COVID-19. On the other hand, in some cases, the social bondage has been strengthened because of COVID-19. A few months ago, some people do not take information, they had no communication between them. But after the COVID-19, they are taking their information. Now they are communicating with them very frequently. So in some cases, the social bondage has been strengthened among the relatives too. Now I would like to conclude my session that although the situation have been changed enough since the starting of COVID-19 pandemic, but still there are some misconception about the COVID-19. People do not contact them, do not extend their cooperation with the COVID-infected people. So there are some space to work for the social service providers, social workers to create awareness among the people so that they combat the situation with each. The government has to take some policy to create awareness, to provide services by the health workers at the grassroots levels, and the government has to increase the number of testing centers so that the people could easily go to the testing center and COVID-19 take the facilities of testing COVID-19 and take measures for combating the situation with each other. Thanks for your kind patience.
Thank you, Dr. Anwar Hussein, for your nice presentation. We are enlightened really about the situation of Bangladesh. Now, sir, it is question hour session from the participants who are here. I am waiting for the question. Before that, sir, I want to ask you one question. Regarding psychosocial impact, do you find anything distinguished between literate people of Bangladesh and illiterate people of Bangladesh? Sir, you are not audible.
Now, can you listen to me?
Yes, I can listen. Regarding psychosocial impact on literate people or unliterate people, this is my question, not came. Is there any distinguish between?
I'm trying. Can you listen to me now?
Yes, listen, audible, sir.
Okay. Actually, the literate people think that it is our responsibility to test and disclose the situation so that the government take appropriate measures. And on the other hand, they extend their cooperation to communicate with the people, COVID-infected people, and provide services. Even in some cases, they provide the other services for sending medicine and other essential goods to the people. And they are very much alert about the infections of COVID-19, and they're using masks so that they then protect themselves from infections. On the other hand, illiterate people and people of lower position, they think that they will not be infected with the COVID-19. Actually, COVID-19 infects the upper class people who are living in air-conditioned room and etc. So there are a lot of differences about the understanding of the people. And if you, at present, especially in the lower class, they are not using masks. Even if they are suffering from fever, they do not they are not interested to go to the hospitals for taking services and for tests.
So, sir, again, it is my question, since no question came in chat box. What is the role of Bangladesh media to remove psychosocial problems of people, media people? How the media is spreading its knowledge about among the people?
Media. Okay, media is playing very important role, but sometimes some reports created fear among the people. That is, the people are not getting services. The people, it is very number of testing is very too poor, etc. This type of news creating fear among the people. But to create awareness among the people, media's role is very much praiseworthy, because how the COVID-19 is spreading among the people, what should be done, how we can protect ourselves from the COVID-19. So media is playing important role since the infections of COVID-19.
So thank you, sir. You have nicely explained the situation in Bangladesh. In our 2 days seminar, webinar, we have really enriched from the speakers of different countries. Yesterday also people from Bangladesh told about the position of your country, and people from Sri Lanka. We are really enlightened. Those who have participated, they are really enlightened with the nice speech from distinguished lectures. Now it is the part we'll slowly conclude. Now I hand over the mic for valedictory session to Professor Dr. Sanat Kumar Bishwas, librarian of Sudhir Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, to give his valedictory lecture.
Okay.
Professor Sanat Kumar Bishwas, please.
Thank you, sir. This is time to vote of thanks. With respect to the chair, on behalf of Sudhir Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, I, Dr. Sanat Kumar Bishwas.
A bit louder, please. A bit louder. A bit louder, please, Sandu.
Okay.
A bit louder. Yes, you're audible, but please a bit louder.
Okay. With respected to chair, on behalf of Sudhir Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, I, Dr. Sanat Kumar Bishwas, convener of webinar organizing cell of the college, expressing heartiest vote of thanks and gratitude to all. It is my honor and privilege to get opportunity to give vote of thanks. Honorable and most distinguished patronship, patron, chairman, honorable special guests, resource persons, organizers, conveners, moderators, and participants of this webinar. First of all, I would like to propose vote of thanks to our honorable patron-in-chief, Sri Sunil Kumar Bishwas, President, Governing Body of our college, for being with us and gracefully inaugurate the session. I would like to thank to the patron of this international webinar, Dr. Binoy Saxena, Principal, Kishan PG College, Uttar Pradesh. I would like to propose heartiest vote of thanks and gratitude to our honorable speakers, special guest, Major Dr. S.P. Singh, Secretary Managing Committee, Kishan PG College, Uttar Pradesh. All of you know, we have 2 days session. First day we have 3 resource persons, and second day, that is today, have 3 resource persons. I would like to thanks and gratitude to all those 6 distinguished speakers and resource persons. Now, I would like to thank to first speaker, Professor M.D. Abdul Wadud, Department of Economics, Rajshahi University, Rajshahi, Bangladesh. He elaborately discusses the impact of COVID-19 in microeconomic sector of SAARC countries with reference to Bangladesh. I would like to thank and gratitude to second speaker, Mahishika Dijanayake, Senior Lecturer, Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Rajarata University, Sri Lanka. She also discusses the impact of COVID-19 in tourism industry of SAARC countries with special reference to Sri Lanka. Our third speaker, Dr. Khalid Mustaq, Associate Professor, Institute of Agriculture and Resource Economics, University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan. I would like to heartiest thank to him. He consciously discusses the impact of COVID-19 in agriculture with special reference to Pakistan. I would like to express our profound gratitude and thank you for the speaker, Dr. Utpal Kumar De, Department of Economics, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. He briefly presented his observations of impact of COVID-19 on unemployment of India. I would like to thank to fifth speaker, Dr. Raghubir Vista, Associate Professor, Department of Economics, University of Nepal. He briefly presented his observations on the impact of COVID-19 on economics in SAARC countries with special reference to Socio-Economic sector of Nepal. I would like to thank and gratitude to our last speaker, Professor Dr. M.D. Anwar Hussein, Professor, Department of Social Work, Dhaka Jagannath University, Bangladesh. He discusses his observation about psychosocial impact of COVID-19 in SAARC countries with special reference to Bangladesh. I would like to express our profound gratitude to two principals, Dr. Somnath Bandyopadhyay, teacher in charge of our college, and Dr. Binoy Saxena, principal, Kishan PG College, Uttar Pradesh, for their active moral support and guidance. I am happy to express vote of thanks to the entire participant who have made this seminar a grand success. I would like to thank to all the webinar organizing committee members. And I would like to express our profound gratitude and thanks to convener and joint convener of this webinar, convener Dr. Orinda Chakraborty, Associate Professor of Economics, Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, and joint convener Dr. Rajbir Singh, Associate Professor and HOD, Department of Economics, Kishan PG College, Uttar Pradesh, for making this seminar a great success. I would like to express special thanks to Tania Pal, SBM District Coordinator, Sihor, Madhya Pradesh, Water.org, and UNICEF for designing such a beautiful flyer of our webinar. Last not least, I would like to thank to Sri Srikanto Basak for his endless technical support and cooperation. Once again, I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us and cordially cooperate us in making this seminar such a resounding success. Thank you. Thanks to all. Over to Professor Dr. Orinda Chakraborty is officially declared the end of the session. Over to Orinda Chakraborty.
Thank you, Sonu sir. Thank you, Hirak sir, for moderating the technical session so masterly. Thank you, and also thank you thanks to our librarians for conveying the vote of thanks. Now, dear participants, we are at the tag end of the today's webinar. For the last 2 days, we have experienced some insightful, informative, as well as eye-opening lectures from some distinguished scholars and academicians from the SAARC countries. I hope that all these lectures have enriched us, and also hope that the webinar has served the purpose it has designed for. So, thank you all. Stay safe in such a pandemic time, and I wish you all a healthy time ahead. Good night. The link of the feedback link will be shared shortly in the Google Meet chat box as well as in the YouTube chat box. Good night all.